Hi everybody, this is Joel Kennedy with Kennedy Violins. So today I'm just going to quickly give you some strategies on how to buy your first violin. Now for this video, I'm going to assume that you probably don't know how committed you're going to be or your child's going to be to the violin in general. So you probably don't want to spend a lot of money. So I'm just going to focus on providing you with some good ideas on how to buy an inexpensive first violin. And I'm going to give you 5 different ways to avoid some of the common mistakes that a lot of people make. So number 1 is don't spend a bunch of money on a beginner type of violin. Now, if you go to a violin shop, you're probably going to have to pay a little bit more for the violin, but there's a higher probability that the violin is going to be higher quality, so that's good. But as a general rule, you can usually get a pretty decent beginner violin for about $250 to $350. Now, number 2 would be to make sure that you buy from a reputable shop online, or you buy from an actual violin store if you're buying something local. So in terms of the local store that you buy from, try not to buy from like a music store, right? The kind of place that sells guitars and trumpets and trombones and violins and drums and everything else, right? You want to make sure that they sell only stringed instruments. Violins are a lot different than a trumpet, and chances are, of course there's always exceptions, but chances are if you buy a violin from a trumpet place that sells trumpets or something like that, the violin is probably not going to be what you're looking for. And if you have any issues down the road, they're not going to be able to do anything about it. So if you're going to buy from a shop, make sure that they specialize in the stringed family of instruments. Okay, so the other part of that is if you buy online, make sure that it's from a reputable place, right? So make sure that you check their online reviews, right? Google reviews, Yelp reviews, whatever. Make sure you check them out. Now, if you buy from Amazon, and they have a pretty decent rating, my suggestion would be, because we sell a lot of violins on Amazon, and we know who's all selling on Amazon. There's a lot of tricks out there. You want to make sure that their reviews aren't like from a Chinese review mill, basically. Now, the way that you can kind of do that is you can just read through a bunch of reviews. Some of the telltale signs are a lot of the reviews are very, very similar, or there's a lot of, grammatical mistakes, broken English. Now, it's getting a little bit harder these days because they're using AI, and AI is pretty smart. But if you go through a lot of the reviews, especially a lot of the older ones, you'll be able to kind of see a lot of red flags. So just make sure it's a reputable place online. They've got really good reviews. And if you buy from the shop, make sure they only sell stringed instruments. Now, number 3, if you're buying the violin online, which most people will because it's less expensive, you want to make sure that the violin is A, set up, and B, set up in America. That's very, very important. So when I say set up, that means that the strings are installed, the bridge is up, the tailpiece is on, the strings are tightened and tuned, maybe the bow's pre-rosined, this violin's been inspected. Now, some companies, it's not as prevalent these days as it used to be, they'll send you a violin that's not completely set up. So they expect you to put your violin together. If you're the average person and you're not familiar with violin, how the heck are you going to put your violin together? And if you do, and you follow the really terrible instructions that probably came with it, it's probably not going to work out very well for you. And you're going to get really frustrated, and you're going to take it to a shop, and then they're going to charge you a bunch of money, and then there goes the savings you got from buying it online. So make sure your violin's set up. The other aspect of that is to make sure that it's set up and inspected in America. Unfortunately, a lot of companies, in order to save costs, they'll have the instrument set up in China. Well, the problem with that is obviously there could be quality control issues, but the other big issue is that if your violin is set up in China, okay, now it has to be put on a container, this hot container, going across the ocean in a container ship, then it has to go to a warehouse and get stored, then it has to be transported to another warehouse, then it has to be transported to wherever else that you're buying it from, then it has to be shipped to you. So by the time you get it, this wood instrument has shrunken and expanded so many times because of differentiating, humidity levels and temperature levels. It's a train wreck by the time you get it. So you want to make sure that you receive your violin as closely from the time that it was set up to the time that it's in your hands. So that's why it's really important to make sure it's set up in America. Okay, number 4, just make sure that the strings are American or European strings. Now, as far as I know, the only areas of the country that make decent quality strings these days so far are American and European strings. So very, very common American strings would be like any string from the D'Addario company, like Helichords or Ziex or Preludes. Now, Preludes are the most popular because they're inexpensive, but they're also pretty high quality for a student grade instrument. Or there's strings from the Tomastic company or the Parastro company, but usually won't see those as much because they're a lot more expensive. But you want to make sure that they're good quality American strings. Otherwise, the sound quality is going to be horrendous. The strings probably won't stay in tune. They're going to be a very big problem for you. And then you're going to have to replace the strings in short order, which if you're new to the violin, that's going to suck, right? You won't know how to do that. So just make sure that the strings are decent quality. So finally, if you're buying a violin online in particular, make sure that you have a look at the accessories. So the accessories are often viewed as things that just come for free with the violin, but if you can get decent accessories, then why not? So what do I mean by accessories? Well, the rosin, the case, the shoulder rest. Often, a lot of times violins online, they come with a case and shoulder rest. Well, you want to try to, if it's going to come with a shoulder rest, it's probably not going to be like super high quality shoulder rest, but try to make sure it's not some dinky, tiny, chintzy looking plastic thing that's made so it'll fit any size violin. I can promise you from personal experience, it's going to break, it's not going to fit well, and you're just going to end up having to spend a bunch of money buying another shoulder rest anyway. So if you have a choice, make sure it comes with a decent shoulder rest. Now, the violin case, try to get a violin that has a full oblong case. A lot of cheap violins online will come with these little, shaped cases. They call them arrow cases or something like that. Those cases are fine, especially for traveling and stuff like that. But as a general rule, they're not durable. They don't have storage. They're not going to protect your violin as well. So try to get something with a full oblong case. Okay, guys, so that's the 5 main points that if you just watch those 5 main things, and you adhere to those, you're probably going to get a pretty decent violin, and your journey as a beginning violinist or your child's beginning journey as a violinist is probably going to start off a lot better. Now, if you have any questions, of course, you can always give Kennedy Violins a call. We're always happy to answer any questions you got. And of course, if you like this content, feel free to like and subscribe because I'm going to make a bunch more videos and hopefully that can be helpful to you. So with that, I'll bid you adieu and you guys have a nice day.